Hello and welcome to my world. You don't know me, so a little bit about myself. I'm 32 years of age. I live in India, and my city is called New Delhi. I um, I like to read quite a bit. Um, I read 50 books in 2016. I haven't read many books all over because I've just taken off. I've just taken off for the past 3 years, and I've been reading a lot. My favorite kind of books are classics because they really go into the nitty gritties of the story. And nowadays, with unlimited attention spans, books are a bit different and they're a bit more contemporary. So I like literary classics, Russian literature. I like that a lot. My five favorite books are as follows. I'm going to do a countdown from number five to number one. For number five, I am going to say my fifth favorite book of all time is something I'm going to choose, which I read in the last year. And that book is called Martin Eden. It's by Jack London. It's about this guy who is an extremely uncouth guy who is badly spoken, who's a brawler. He's 20 years of age. He's built like a bull, like a tank. He can knock out any person. He loves to drink, loves to party, loves wild women, has every vice imaginable to man, chews tobacco, does everything. One day, this guy sees another guy getting beaten up, so the story begins by him saving this particular gentleman who's getting beaten up. So our hero Martin Eden saves some guy, and that guy is so grateful he takes him home. When Martin enters the home, he sees that society which he is not used to. He is very dumbfounded and flabbergasted by what he sees, and he decides that day that he's going to change. In addition to all this, a curious thing happens. He meets he meets the guy who got beaten up. He meets his sister, and he falls for her. But he's more impressed by how she is than who she is. I don't know what that means. So Martin Eden is what I would really recommend to you guys. I think you guys should pick it up. I think from my top five list, this would be the book very few of you have read. So there you have it. Martin Eden by Jack London is my fifth favorite book. For my fourth favorite book of all time, I want to say Fyodor Dostoevsky. He wrote a book called The Idiot, and that would be my fourth favorite book of all time. Again, I read it just last year in 2016. I began reading it in January. It's a very long book, and it's an amazing book. It is about this man, the idiot. Well, he's not the idiot, but people call him the idiot. He's traveling on a train. He's a shabbily dressed guy. He's an orphan. He doesn't have any family, but he's somehow related to this person of some influence and culture and someone who's moneyed. And he's traveling on the train there, and on the train he sees another guy who's his age, 20 something, who's had better luck in life, but may not be as charming looking as he is. And curiously, there's a third guy who's very funny. He's an older man who's looking at these two and their conversation, and what is the purpose of him going to this place and what not. And it's a very funny book, and I feel out of all authors that I read, I feel Fyodor Dostoevsky knows humanity so well that even if you're reading this book, which was probably written for about society 200 years back, you'll see nothing really changes here. Just because we are so obsessed with our own lives, we think that the world has changed a lot, but aside from technology and a few other things, not much has changed. So it's a very curious, good, funny read, The Idiot by Fyodor Dostoevsky. His other books include Crime and Punishment and Brothers Karamazov, and both books I gave 5 stars to also, but this is my favorite book by him. Number 3 is something which you may have read. It's The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I won't say much about it, but I'll just give you a little gist of what the book is about. It's a very short, small book. You can probably read it in a couple of days. I suggest you take 4 days though. It's a very quotable book also. It's about this artist who's suffering from artist fatigue or writer's block or artist block, if you have such thing. And his name is Basil. And one day he sees this young man at a party, and he's confounded. He can't believe the fact that, wow, how can someone be so beautiful? And he instantly is inspired by just this man's presence, and he approaches the young man, and soon he wants him to pose for him so he can make a picture or whatever. And this sounds like a very minor build up, but it goes on to becoming one amazing book. I've read it twice, and I suggest you do it at least once. Moving on to number 2, I'm gonna name a book which I read when I was 21, and that book was The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, and it stayed with me. It stayed with me a bit because of how amazing it is. The book basically has 4 main chapters, which are based on 4 different characters, and through these 4 characters, Ayn Rand masterfully sketches human traits, and all kinds of men are. Most men you will ever meet in your life are within those 4 categories. So it's a must read. Why is it a must read? Because I think at some stage we all have to differentiate ourselves from one another, and to find that hidden grain of individuality in you, you sometimes need something external. And I feel Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead is the perfect place for you to begin. It doesn't matter if you're 40, you can still begin by this book. And for me, I think my life would have been slightly different had I not read The Fountainhead. I've also read Atlas Shrugged. I did not like it as much as I liked this book. It was written back in the late 1940s, and again, marvelous book, maybe mid-40s, don't blame me. For my favorite book, this has to be a book called Shantaram by Gregory David Roberts. Where do I begin? So this book is based in the 1980s, and basically a guy, an Australian con man, escapes prison by jumping over the prison, and he escapes the Australian prison, and he has to go somewhere in the world to hide from the authorities in Australia. And so he decides to randomly come to India, and he lands up in Bombay, India. It used to be called Bombay then, never mind what it's called now. And he lands up in Bombay, and he's on a bus, and the first thing he sees is that he sees something is on fire outside the bus, and then he notices that everybody around him are at least bothered. They're not stopping. There's no hue and cry. It's just an everyday thing. And within the first hour of his arrival in Bombay, he is stunned. I feel this is an amazing book because I have always shunned patriotism. I find it exceedingly boring and yawn-inducing. And for me to have seen through the eyes of an Australian gentleman wonderful things about my own country, so it instilled in me a faint feeling of patriotism or love towards my country. And I lost count of how many times I looked at the walls for support while reading this book. I just couldn't believe myself because, sometimes you're reading something, and reading is a very immersive activity which you do alone, like on your own. And the fact that this book had so many instances where you are just confounded or left dumbstruck, flabbergasted by what the author is saying is an amazing feat in itself. This is easily the best book I've read. I'm saying easily the best book. It's massive, it's long, but you should embark on this. You won't stop. His very description of Bombay is amazing. It's never been described the way it does. I don't want to break it into you. So this book is a lot about crime and adventure, which is strange because normally I don't like books like that. But it's also a lot to do with philosophy and something called purple prose. Purple prose is a way this book is defined. I really don't know what it means, but I think it has something to do with fabrication of reality to better suit your writing. So there you have it. A quick countdown of my books. Number 5 was Jack London by Martin Eden. Number 4 was The Picture of Dorian Gray. Number 3 was The Idiot. Number 2 was The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. Number 1 is Shantaram. Let me know what you thought about my list, guys. I want to do more such videos. I want to be more interactive with you guys. I would love to hear what your 5 favorite books are and what you think about my favorite books and whether you have read any of them. I wanted to do an honorable mention of other books which I have read, but what I'll do is I'll probably link in my description a few of them in case you guys are interested. Happy reading, guys, and have an okay here. Bye now.